Welcome everybody by another episode of Rocket to Relevance. I'm your host Ronald, and today we're talking about e-commerce and what's next in e-commerce in maybe 2025 or maybe years after. Today I invited Moritz. Moritz, welcome. Thanks for joining us in the lovely Zwolle. Could you please introduce yourself and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, happy to be here. So hi Moritz. I'm Director Product at Shopware. And when I'm asked what I'm actually doing at Shopware, I always tell the people I'm the one making sure that we're addressing the needs of our customers with our product. So that's the short thing. And I have a few product managers reporting towards me that are like the ones talking to people, trying to understand what the challenges are out there, and making sure that it finds its ways into the product.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Shopware in the house. Thanks for joining us, Moritz. And within your role, within your position, I'd love to talk about what's next in e-commerce and what will it bring. And I'm sure you have lots of insights. I know you guys are really big in the DACH region and also outside the DACH region. Being in the center of the product. So high expectations, and looking forward to the next 30 minutes or so to talk about e-commerce. Moritz, you told me that within Shopware, you guys are also really looking into the community and what is driving the community and what's their demand, so to say. You organize bar camps, you organize lots of community events, user groups, for example. How important is that for the development of the product?
I always tend to think that we only can build what we know our customers request or want to have, and therefore community around the product is really, really important. We especially have an eye on building a developer community around our product, because we see mostly where we can excel is the developer experience and making sure that we address the needs of our developers with the product. And basically, if you make developers happy, we'll also make customers happy, because they are going faster to iterations, faster to added values towards their customers. But overall, it's all about creating an exchange between people, making sure that they talk about their challenges, their needs, their opinions, and so on, and really trying to connect people and help them each other, helping each other. So
because most of them have the same challenges, the same experiences, of course, and
that's right.
It helps the product and the merchants themselves as well. And what do you hear lately? What is the feedback, or what are trends you're seeing?
Yeah, I think one thing we're seeing at the market, especially in this macroeconomic space we're currently in, is that replatforming becomes more and more a struggle for a lot of customers, and also connected to what we see on the agency side. Also, agencies seeing less people approaching them for replatforming or new projects. So I think what becomes really important at the current situation is making sure that you have something in place to help your customers migrate to your platform. And show them what a successful project can look like with your platform.
So it's important to support them from small to maybe even really big, and rebuilding or replatforming shouldn't be an issue, so to say.
Yeah, and it's also about building an MVP, starting small, because you don't want to invest millions of dollars from scratch, but first see if the investment turns out well, and really starting with something small and then replatforming over time. We see a lot of customers starting with smaller shops in different countries where it doesn't hurt their main business before going live, and then going over time with their main business to the platform as well.
Yeah, because I would say back in the days, and I'm talking maybe 10 years back, it was quite normal to say hey, it's been 3 years, let's develop a new web shop, for example. But that's not the advice nowadays, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think money became expensive, so you don't there's nobody throwing money after you anymore, and therefore everybody is looking after their basically money and making sure that they invest in the right things. Yeah.
Yeah, and what would be the right approach, or what should you consider in those steps to make?
Yeah, I think first it's really, really important to look at what time you want to do the investment. Is it sensible? Most of the time it will be something where we're starting early at the beginning of the year, because you don't want to do it during Christmas or whatever.
Yeah.
So really, when do you want to start the project? What are your requirements? What is the like fitting partner to do like all the development you need to have in your replatforming project, and also making sure that you have a plan on how that pans out over the next years, because it's uncommon that you will have the same you had before during like 12 months or something like that, because like years of investment in the old platform, you're starting with a new one with an MVP approach or whatever, so you really need some time until you will have like the same amount of maturity of the platform.
So that takes time as well, of course. And evolving over time, that's the main topic then. How would you say that, for example, issues like tech debt or platform stability or maybe security come into play as well? We also know a discussion like, hey, go for a PaaS solution or a SaaS solution. What do you see in the market?
Yeah, so I think it's like we see two trends. You have one trend where you want to have mostly flexibility, want to like own the application, then they're going more for PaaS solutions or even on-prem, depending on how much of flexibility you want to have. And then there's the other trend where we see that people want to have like less flexibility but more stability, and then going towards like SaaS solutions. And I think it's always like you need to decide where your business evolves into. If you want to have all the flexibility, maybe have a really custom solution that is not like comparable to your competitors. Most of them going more for PaaS or on-prem, where all of the customization and application lies within the hands of the customer and partner. And on the other hand, we're also seeing a lot of customers going towards SaaS when they want to reduce their operational costs and spend less on customizing and going more on off-the-shelf solutions.
More the straightforward way, so to say, and a quick time to market. And of both options at Shopware, do you see specific growth in which area or both areas maybe?
Yeah, I think for us currently the growth is stronger on PaaS solutions. We see a lot of, especially from the bigger platforms out there like Intershop, Commerce Tools, SAP, and so on, that are like seeing that they need to do massive investments to keep the platform running, and they see an opportunity with Shopware to have less investment and a better platform in the end, so they can more like invest into customizations and customer value instead of the platform itself.
Makes sense. And regarding customizations, that also makes maybe an easy bridge towards B2B. B2B is often a complex environment where mostly customizations are needed. What kind of evolvements do you see on that end?
Yeah, so we are highly investing in the B2B space, and I think we're coming from an area where B2B was all about how can I get my manual processes into an online shop, and the online shop was basically self-service. So there was like the catalog online, there was some kind of, I don't need to like email my order form anymore, and you can click all the products together and order them. But what we are seeing is that it becomes more and more like that B2B commerce gets more like an experience that is connection between people that are actually selling products to the ones that are like maybe in the retail stores and so on. And we see a lot of digitalization happening, especially in the sales processes. So there are like people, we have like solutions with digital sales rooms where you can set up online interactions with people out there, selling direct stuff to them. And because also in B2B, especially labor-intensive like processes will be needs to optimize, because like there's a lot of productivity needed, and there's a lot of
focus on efficiency improving processes and stuff like that.
And therefore, like automation, and also like how can I like reduce the effort of my labor to go out and try to sell stuff, and
to actually have a whole offline sales team, sales reps and stuff like that.
And also we have like our B2B components that are mainly addressing the need of like being flexible in the B2B environment, because we see not every project is the same. B2B projects are always complex. I think that they all have in common, but they are not the same. And we see that some functionalities are needed for some projects and others are for other projects. So it's really about choosing the right added values you want to have for your platform instead of like getting all off the shelf and need to deal with them.
So starting your project in advance, setting up the right requirements, and then also picking the right needs for your project, basically. And that's in your case, the B2B components is something that totally facilitates those options.
Yeah.
You go to a library or you go to somewhere and say, hey, I need to have this functionality together with this functionality. And then that makes my store.
You can even do that on the base of your customers. So the ones that are like buying in the online store. So you can decide if someone needs to have like an employee management and invite different employees, if they need to have like a department structure or not. And you can do it on the customer level. And therefore you can even encourage small customers with less complexity. And the bigger ones that need the complexity, you can like invite them and have the complexity they need.
Yeah, and the same goes maybe for customer specific pricing or customer specific assortments. That you can say like, hey, this is something we definitely need in our environment. Or you say like, hey, we go the default way.
Yeah, we started working on like the customer-specific assortments, and we decided to connect it to the department structure that is above that, so that you can really like decide on a department level which products these departments needs to see. That can either be done by the administrator because he needs to provide a catalog for their customers, and on the other side, it's also about the like company owner that then can decide if my employees needs to see certain products or not.
In your case, it's really fine-grained, so to say, not just on the company level, but also even department or buyer level. Cool. And this also brings to be like, being in control of your project, having the right requirements, and also selecting the right software. That also brings me to a topic like, hey, the total cost of ownership. I think that's maybe the most important one for next year.
Yeah, agree to that. So it's really about how can I reduce operational costs with my platform. And I think one is always like the underlying hosting structure we talked earlier. It's like PaaS, SaaS, and all of that. All of this comes with like some kind of TCO implication. Normally, I would say if you're going more for vendor-offered solutions, it will be less than like on-premise, because on-premise everything lies within your responsibility. You need to set up all the monitoring and all of that. But it's also about how I can integrate the online shop into my system landscape. How are these systems talking to each other? How much effort do I need to these systems talking to each other? And we're looking also into that space where we see recently a lot of like iPaaS providers, like integration platform as a service. They are like going bigger because like it's basically they saw that there's a space needed where people want to connect different systems to each other without the hassle of like doing it all manually with developer efforts.
And for example, we know Channel Engine, we know Alumio. Those are some examples, I think, that are really good into easily streamlining all the data where needed. That's really helpful to help in your online business as well. Regarding implementation, what would be your advice? Let's say we start a new web shop next year. How would you set it up, and how would you determine on, hey, what product do I need, and what setup will I need, and what would be a really good start to let's say scale from 1 million to 50 million, for example.
It would be nice if I have like the golden key to that, and everybody would be successful.
Everybody's listening now.
But overall, I would say always start with the idea you have about like how you want to display your product, how the experience around your product should look like, because I think
that's mainly front end, right?
Everything you want to build will be around like an experience you want to create for your customers, and then select like the platform based on what you want to create towards your customers. So what value do you want to ship towards your customers, and what platform will you bring closer to like being able to ship that? And I think it's always also connected to how many resources you have on your side to create this experience. Do I need developers? Do you need an agency? So I think it's really looking into how much I will put into like creating this experience, and how can I like easily get to that experience, I would say.
And as you mentioned, like starting with a SaaS solution could be a nice way, and then moving forward maybe to a PaaS solution, or adding more customization along the road. Regarding the cost of ownership, we also talked about agile development, working with MVPs. Do you think that's important as well to implement projects or improvements over the year?
I would say always start small. As I said earlier, a bit like going with maybe a shop you don't like rely your whole business on, and like really try to experience, try to like having KPIs growing and see how the business develops with this new shop.
Yeah.
And then like switching more and more of your business towards the new MVP and also developing it over time. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I would say it's like the new key to development is always doing an MVP, see how it sticks also with your customers, and then try to like develop it further. Watching, like look at your KPIs you defined earlier, how you measure success, and like do decisions based on that, I would always say.
Yeah, and that's more or less also the way you guys work with users groups, right?
Yeah.
You say, hey, what are your needs? Will this work? Maybe you have a beta version for some bigger customers. They will test it. I think it's a really important part of success to validate and to move forward afterwards.
We also recently introduced like a feature insider previews where we release like beta features and blueprints.
Nice. Yeah.
And then you can activate it in your administration and really provide feedback in the early stage of development to us. Yeah. Because I think, as you said, it makes really sense to have as early feedback as possible and as much feedback as possible. And also like our product owners, their main incentivation is to talk to people and really showing them like our concepts, screen designs, and making sure that we're like going in the right direction. And also we are facilitating that with custom advisory events and also doing barcamps on a broader range. Barcamps basically means that the customer can come up with a topic and we're discussing this in a bigger round with other customers and so on.
Yeah. So that's basically the same approach as you would do with launching a new web shop. Validate and then move forward. There's also a big trend going on focused on conversion, and that's mainly to please our big friend Google regarding Core Web Vitals. Do you see the same, and is there a big focus on front-end experience and improvements?
Yeah, I would agree to that. So we're seeing more and more, especially headless scenarios coming up, where you have like a JavaScript storefront that is always much better in terms of the core web vitals than like a normal like HTTP trick whatever based storefront. And we're seeing especially bigger projects moving more and more towards like decoupled storefronts, where they can have own caching mechanisms, where they like even can be far much more like looking after core web vitals than you can do in a normal storefront. But overall, I would say it's connected to having the like a fast performance. I think that's one of that, and like you need to find the right balance then to user experience, because like optimizing for core web vitals doesn't always mean like having the best user experience.
That's true.
So it's like you need to find a good way in between.
That's a fine balance, I would say, to actually cover both. And also nowadays the holiday season is coming up, Christmas. Most of the e-commerce managers choose to settle down a bit on webshop development, taking it easy, optimizing what they already have, and then maybe in the early next year start developing again. Do you think that's the best practice?
Yeah, I think it's normal. Like 3 months before Christmas, you're like doing a code freeze, and then don't like touch the like feature base anymore of your online shop.
Okay, so don't touch.
And then you start like optimizing for performance, doing performance tests, maybe even
some load tests,
load testing. Yeah, you're right. And then looking after if there are like common like maybe bugs or something you want to like get rid of before that, that you really have like the fastest and best experience during Black Week. And we also see that, especially because we are also a provider on the like hosting side with SaaS and PaaS offerings. We see also that customers approaching us and telling us, oh, we're doing like a big like campaign in this area, and we need to scale at that time.
They need some peak performance during the holidays.
So also reaching out to your hoster, making sure that everything is prepared for upscaling and so on. And then looking with the agency about like together on the like whole setup of the architecture and if it makes sense.
That's a great tip, by the way. Speaking of the tips and tricks we always do at the end of the podcast. We always say like, hey, what's the key takeaway of our interview? But that's maybe a really nice one to have a checklist before going into the busy period. You mentioned like, hey, basically contact everybody involved with your web shop and bring them aligned with your plans, your maybe expected visitors or maybe special promotions you're doing. Any additional tips, maybe?
Yeah, I think connected with also like planning in resources that are like on standby to helping you if something happens.
Yeah.
And I think like the overall tip is always like in these thinking in MVPs, even when we're going to like doing performance optimization, everything you're doing is always thinking in MVPs, like trying to implement something as fast as possible, trying to see if it works and if it sticks, and then optimize them based on that further.
Yeah, it's a great takeaway, and lots of value bombs actually today in the podcast. Thanks for joining us, and lovely to have you. And good luck everybody with the main season, the holiday season, and good luck next year as well with your web shop. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thanks for joining.